I now give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Mr. President, the year 1995 is truly historic, marking not only the 50th anniversary of the United Nations, the sole universal organization dedicated to international peace and cooperation, but also the end of the Second World War, the most destructive war in the history of humankind. In observing these landmarks, it is appropriate that we study seriously the lessons that history has to teach us and reaffirm our commitment to achieving lasting peace and prosperity in accordance with the principles and purposes of the Charter of the United Nations. It is particularly meaningful that member states were unanimous in proclaiming 1995 as a year dedicated to the memory of the tens of millions of victims of the Second World War. Mr. President, the declaration in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the end of the Second World War presents us with four very important tasks. First, all states are urged to reaffirm the commitment to abstain from the use or threat of force, both against territorial integrity or political independence of any state, and in any other manner inconsistent with the principles and objectives of the United Nations Charter. I wish to affirm here that Japan is determined never to waver from its commitment to contribute to world peace and prosperity, and that it does not, nor will it, resort to the use of force prohibited by its constitution. Second, it is important for states to multiply their efforts to put an end to all conflicts and to spare future generations from the scourge of new wars and racial hatred, drawing lessons from the history of past conflicts. In this context, Japan welcomes the recent ceasefire agreement in Bosnia and Herzegovina and appeals to the parties to the conflict to exercise utmost restraint. Third, states are called upon to promote democracy and human rights and to support general access to culture. It is extremely important for states to fulfill this most basic requirement, which will enable them, in turn, to pursue moderate, sound, and appropriate foreign policies. Last, but no less important, states are required to focus our efforts on the purpose of creating conditions for the general progress of humankind living in a larger freedom. Toward that end, Japan will do its utmost to alleviate poverty and illiteracy and promote public health and welfare, particularly in developing countries. Mr. President, the United Nations was created with a determination to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. By advancing the universal values enshrined in the Charter, it has grown into a truly international organization for the promotion of peaceful and cooperative relations among states. Reflecting with deep remorse upon the past, and as a responsible member state, Japan has made sincere efforts to foster the principles and purposes of the United Nations. Although the functions of the United Nations were often paralyzed by the East-West confrontation that prevailed throughout most of the last 50 years, the new international situation resulting from the end of the Cold War provides new opportunities for the United Nations and all its member states to achieve the purposes stipulated in the Charter. The United Nations is thus expected to play a more active role in efforts towards international peace and prosperity, and in the formation of a new international order in the coming century. Toward this end, all member states must join in the effort to reform this organization to ensure that it meets the growing expectations and demands of the international community. The reform of the Security Council so as to enhance its effectiveness and legitimacy is of particular importance in this regard. Japan is committed to participate actively in the reform of the organization and intends to play a positive role in the new United Nations. In closing, I should like to express to the delegation of the Russian Federation my appreciation for the initiative it has taken in proposing this agenda item. My delegation heartily supports this initiative and has become one of the co-sponsors of the draft resolution now before us. I am confident that it will be adopted by the General Assembly by consensus. Japan looks forward to the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the end of the Second World War at the beginning of a new era of peaceful and cooperative relations among all the nations of the world, centering around a strong United Nations. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Japan.